Okay, good evening everybody. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian and I am an alcoholic. To get things started here. A reminder that this group has a website and a Facebook page. It'll keep you informed on upcoming speakers and events for this group. We have an event coming up on December 14th of December. We're going to have Chris Raymer here in from Texas there's going to be a workshop all day long and he'll be speaking at night. There'll be food and fellowship throughout the course of the day. Workshop. Oh yeah, that might not be here, so stay tuned to the announcements at the beginning of the meetings and pay attention to the website because we'll probably inform you as we get closer to the date as to where exactly that's going to be. The food and the fellowship here starts at 8 o'clock, so if you miss the shrimp and lobster tail appetizer, get here early next week and you won't miss out. A reminder that there's no smoking on the church property. We appreciate if you help us out with that. It's the church's policy. We're very privileged to have this facility to use for our meeting, and that's really all they ask of us. Nick's going to come up here and chair the meeting. Enjoy yourself, guys.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick and I am an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from the message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, hello.
Hi, my name is Julie. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Julie. Welcome. Yes, sir.
I'm an alcoholic. My name's Donald.
Hey, Donald. Welcome. Yes, sir.
James, alcoholic.
Hey, James. Welcome. Yes, sir.
I'm Mark, I'm an alcoholic.
What's up, Mark? Welcome. Hey, Justin. Welcome. Hello.
Hi, Jenna from Rehoboth Alcoholic.
Hi, Jenna. Welcome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Excellent. Are there any announcements for the floor for the good of AA? Yes.
Hi, Jenna Alcoholic. Delaware Young People of Alcoholics Anonymous has its business meeting tomorrow in St. George, Delaware, in St. George United Methodist Church. We'll be planning our next event, which will be a How to Survive the Holidays Sober workshop with cooking, baking, decorating, and AA trivia. So if you're interested in planning that event or attending and eating free cookies, please give me a call.
Thank you. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you'd like a CD of any speaker past or present, please see myself or Ron before or after the meeting. They're available free of charge. And with that, I have Eric to come up and read the AA preamble.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric, and I'm an alcoholic. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I'm now going to have Mike come up and read the 12 steps.
Mike.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike. I'm alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
We have a 7 tradition which states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I'd like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. Once again, there is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now to introduce our speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, comes to us from Delaware, Jenna M. from the Love and Service Group.
Hi guys, my name is Jenna and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And I gotta say, I love the greeting coming in here. I came in the wrong door, and so it's always a great start when you do that. And I was then made to come up the main entrance anyway and go through a horde of people, and I felt like a champion high-fiving everyone coming down that. And that's, AA's like such a welcoming environment. Right? Anywhere I go, I feel like I'm immediately at home, and that's not the way I felt when I was out there. You know, I have a sobriety date of March 12th of 2011. I got sober when I was 21 years old. I was introduced to AA at 19 and said, absolutely not. You can't stop me before I'm legal. And I came back in very shortly after my 21st birthday and was like, I can't handle it anymore. But it's funny because my journey, I don't really have that great of a story out there. You know, and I was told that very frankly by my boyfriend. He was like, you know, you might want to not hype up on your, you know, your war story. It's really not that good. Like, you didn't kill anyone. You didn't destroy any families. Like, it's not, it's, and like it is, I mean, I started drinking, my first drunk was at 14 years old. And I was at a New Year's Eve party, and I went from drinking classy screwdrivers to immediately shotgunning beer and in a blackout, and I came to eating cheesecake, and I blacked out again and woke up the next day on the floor with my head in the toilet, and I had no recollection of what happened. And that was at 14, and that was like my first real drink. And I didn't think I had a problem. I thought that that was everyone's experience. I thought everyone blacked out. That's not true, apparently. Normal people don't normally do that. You know, so I swore that I was never gonna drink again, and then at 16 years old, something traumatic 16 event happened with a boy, and he liked another girl, and I drank at his friend's party, and this was a humiliating experience, and I'll share this because this is what my drinking looks like, and I have to be reminded of it. At 16 years old, I was there, and I drank too much. I didn't know how to drink, let's be real. I drank vodka out of a bottle that said flavored Bacardi, and I thought that because it was flavored, it meant I didn't need to chase it with anything. So I downed the whole bottle. Didn't really know. And everyone saw me sitting on the couch swaying. And they all started screaming at the same time, "Run to the bathroom, run to the bathroom." And I didn't. But I did vomit into my hands and catch it. And everyone clapped. Until I threw it over my shoulder onto the couch. Didn't end well, and that was the beginning. Like, that's the beginning of my alcoholism. That's just the tip. Can I sit? It's just, yeah. Oh my God. I'm not allowed to curse, so I gotta keep this real vanilla. So 18 years old, I get into college, and it's, again, not good. It's a nightmare. But I'm not seeing any of this. Like, I'm at the bars on Thursday night. I'm supposed to be in my advanced biology class, but everyone's drinking $20 while they can drink, so why not I? You know, so I go there with my fake ID at 18 years old and start doing a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing, and passing out drunk and ending up in bad situations, and, you know, doing everything to feed my alcoholism, right? The ego, right? And like that spiritual malady that I tried to fill with everything else, all of those insecurities that were there were gone as soon as any other substance entered into my body. Like, I was me. I was that happy-go-lucky girl who didn't care what everyone thought for the first time in my life. That brain that was constantly going, that I was like, what are they thinking? Are they thinking of me? Everything's about me, right? That person, they're looking at me funny. I can tell right now it's about me. Everything. In my head, I was constantly paranoid. And it stopped. It was quiet, and I was cool. I thought I was cool. And so, you know, I did all of the things that people would suggest I do. You should get into modeling. I thought that was a great idea. Until they told me that I had to, like, drop 3 inches off my waist, and I was like, that's great, I'll just drink more. And that's exactly what I did. I drank my calories, because those didn't count. And my life very quickly got bad, that from 18 to 19 years old, I'm now in my first rehabilitation center. And that was actually where I first got introduced to my first resentment. I never really acknowledged resentments before then, but getting like kind of clear-headed and sober for the first time, I started becoming aware of these things. And my first resentment was at my counselor, who told me to please, now at this point I'm supposed to be going to AA meetings, but like any good alcoholic who doesn't want to go to an AA meeting because they're not yet ready to get sober, goes through that meeting list, puts it down, says I went, fakes a signature, and that's what I did. So I had no clue what she was talking about, and she said, can you go to the closet and grab the big book? So I walked into the closet, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I just like stormed off, and like I came in, I was like, listen miss, there's not one book in that cabinet bigger than the other. I don't know what you're talking about. And she, obviously, it gave it away that I had not been going to AA meetings. So shortly after being called out on my baloney, I exited the rehab facility and didn't look back. You know, and then again, it gets worse. It never gets better when I'm out there. It never gets better without this solution. And I wanted to throw everyone a rehab graduation party. Like that was my thing, but I wasn't in the rehab anymore, but I was like really proud of everyone else for graduating and completing. So I thought that it would be great to celebrate by going bar hopping, because now we had enough self-knowledge. So I called up everyone from this rehab and I told them, I was like, listen, I think it's time, you know, we should celebrate, you know what you're doing, let's go. And everyone said yes. Except for this one guy who I called, and he's like, I can't do that. And I was like, why? Didn't you just graduate rehab? Like, you know what you're doing? And he was like, I'm in AA. You're still in that thing? Why? Like, I couldn't even. And he was like, you know, do I think for a little bit I could control my drinking? Absolutely. But eventually, do I think my disease would catch up with me and kill me? Yeah, I know it would. He's like, if you ever feel like you're hopeless and you need a solution and this isn't the way of life for you, like, this is my home group. Monday nights, 8 p.m., show up there. It took me 2 years. At 21 years old, I finally walked into that room beaten. And I don't know what happened, but I walked into AA one day. My last drunk looks like this. I went to that meeting on a Monday, right? And I wasn't having it. Like, I understood meetings, I understood fellowship, I really liked the free cigarettes. And that people would put up with me complaining for like 15 minutes and just ranting, and it was great. I got to express myself freely in the rooms and hold people hostage. And it was a Friday night and I had my last drink. I went out, this guy, I was at a community college, my probably second or third one at the time. And I'm standing in a parking lot and this guy walks over to my car window and he taps on it. He was rolled down, so didn't understand that. But like, I was smoking out the car window and I knew he was gonna ask me for a lighter, so I just rolled it down a little bit lower and I just handed him the lighter. And he was like, actually, I wanna ask you a question. I was like, what? He's like, do you wanna go on a date with me? And I was like, I mean, there's this bar I know, like if you wanna go this weekend, we can go drinking. And he was like, you know, I'm an AA. I only drink every other weekend. And this weekend I'm off. So I had really big misconceptions about this program entering it. But he was off from drinking that weekend, and I went to the diner with him, and I ordered a French onion soup that was the only salad food he had already ate. He was just there to kind of like watch what I was doing, I guess. And he sat there and we talked. I remember none of it. I think I remember his name. But ultimately, I ended up with a $250 bill. Like, I lived in New York City at this time, so taxes, prices, exorbitant. But I only ordered a French onion soup. The rest was liquor. And I was a waitress back in the day, so I would never skimp anyone on the bill. So I politely paid the bill, and when the waitress wasn't looking, it was the middle of winter, I stuck 4, 5, 6 bottles from the bar into my jacket and left. We were even. Proceeded to drink those while driving. At this point, I'm by choice homeless, but at some point during this blackout, decided to text my mother and let her know that I'd be coming home for the evening. Don't know why I did that either. And because of that, she anticipated seeing me at this point, which I was 87 pounds and with kidney failure. She knew I wasn't feeding myself. She knew I was a mess, and she got me chicken selects from McDonald's, and she left them on the oven, and she left me a text message saying that she left food for me. And in my drunk stupor, I walked in, preheated the oven, and stuck the entire cardboard box in it. Passed out drunk on the couch in the basement, and my mom woke up to the smell of her house on fire. I remember that like yesterday. She ran down those stairs and she was screaming at me. Just screaming, and all I could remember is, you're ruining my drunk. Like, just leave me alone. You're miserable, just go away. And she went into my car, she was trying to find my keys so that she could reprimand me and take my keys away, but haha, I didn't know where they were. She couldn't find them either. They were in my side door, I left them in the car door. Go figure. So she went into my car because it was unlocked, and she found 4 bottles. I'd finished 2 of them before I got there. But 4 bottles, I don't know where the guy went either. I'm pretty sure I picked him up. I don't know how I got home. But so she finds the bottles in the back seat, and she comes in, and I was a selfless drunk. I stole her a bottle of Chambord because it was her favorite liqueur. So I figured that'd be my gift to her, like, you're letting me stay here for the night, I got you Chambord, didn't pay for it, but, you know. So she finds all these bottles. She kept the Chambord, by the way, don't be fooled. But she took the bottle of vodka and came downstairs and she said, this is what you love so much, you can have it. And she doused me in vodka. I woke up at Saturday morning, and I said to my mom, I was like, I'm going to an AA meeting. And she looked at me and she laughed, and she said, I don't know why you bother. You're just gonna die like this. She's like, it's not worth it. And you know, sometimes that ego, it can be a really good thing, because I got that fierce determination to prove her wrong. And I walked into a Saturday morning meeting, an hour and a half away. It was a young person's meeting. I had no idea that there were closer ones. But I knew that this meeting had chocolate cream cheese for the bagels, so I was a little hungover and totally sold on that. And I drove to this meeting, and for the first time, like something happened. Like it was just different. And this guy that I really respected, that I knew from rehab, he was doing really well. He had 7 months. I could not fathom 7 months. When they said, does anyone have 1 day? He stood up and said, you know, I had 7 months, and I went on vacation and I gave it away, and I need to pick up a 1 day coin. And when he did that, it gave me the courage to finally, for the first time, say that I had 1 day. Not that people didn't know I reeked of vodka and looked like a hot mess. But people came up to me after the meeting and asked me if I had a sponsor, and did I want to get a sponsor, and it didn't matter if I didn't want to get a sponsor, I was going to get one now. And they told me to pick a woman in the room and just ask her to be my sponsor. And I picked this girl, and she had really cool sneakers and a really hot guy sitting next to her, and I was like, that's it, that's my sponsor. 3 months later, I was suicidal and debating why I ever entered this program, as she spread my entire story around the rooms of AA. I didn't know what pick a sponsor who has what you want meant. To me, it means something very different now. And it means picking someone who's had that spiritual awakening and spiritual experience, who has a thorough working knowledge of not just the steps in that big book, but implements it. Someone who, when I watch their feet, lives that book. That when they talk about, you know, being restless, irritable, and discontent, they identify with that and know what to do about it. They know where to apply the principles in their life. So at 3 months, I was told that this woman did this to me, and I was brokenhearted, and 2 alcoholics thought I might drink that night, so they showed up at my house and sat with me all night until I could figure out another person who could sponsor me. And I picked out this woman who I thought was the biggest witch at the time, because every time I walked into a meeting and said hi, she said hi, and rolled her eyes and scoffed at me. Like actually scoffed. I didn't even know that was a real thing until I read it in the literature. And they said, you ever think that maybe because they know that you're full of baloney? And she took me through those steps, and I was her first sponsee ever. And we both had no clue what we were doing. And I didn't know what honesty was. I was as honest as I could be the first time through those steps. As honest as I could be, which meant that a lot got left off that inventory. But I didn't know how to be honest about that other stuff. Like, I didn't know how to come clean about an eating disorder. I didn't know how to come clean about stealing, except for when it benefited me to, like, you know, I had to say about the diner story and stealing the bottles of liquor. So, I mean, because that was part of how I got sober. But other than that, I didn't really want to talk about being sober and stealing from my mom's pocketbook. That I was still doing that in early sobriety. I was so ashamed. I thought when you got sober, your behaviors that were bad disappeared. And that it's not magic. This program comes with time and constantly giving like different experiences. And I've been through the steps several times, right? So this is what my sobriety looked like. My first year sober, I was a hot mess, as expected. I had terrible behaviors that I still like to think that my entire first year sober, I was like abiding by the whole celibacy thing, and I did that. I did not get into a relationship for an entire first year of my sobriety. I did continuously text with men in order to satisfy that need. I did flirt constantly. I did do all of that stuff, but I didn't have sex. That's not a bad word, right? Okay. Trying to be real cautious up here. I didn't do that, really. I kept it above the belt. So, I played around with the rules the way that I wanted to do it. I took the suggestions as best I could as an alcoholic who was still very sick and suffering. But I'd like to think that I can claim, I didn't get into a relationship for the first year. All right, let's be real honest. That's all I did. I just didn't get into But immediately upon the break of that year, I was in one. It was like waiting for the countdown, and it's like I already had my options lined up. I was ready to screw up my sobriety as quickly as possible. It's like, you want a real spiritual downfall, find a guy who's going to date you in early sobriety. Because you're as sick as the person you're sleeping with, right? That's what I was taught. And I had to learn that the hard way over and over and over again. But I met after the first one who was a little insane codependent, and I loved that. Man, this is going downhill real fast. I met a guy who was really nice and also very codependent, and somehow, some way, I must have convinced him he was an alcoholic, because he never drank before me, but then started coming to AA meetings, and I didn't mind it. I now had someone to come to them with me, and I was like, this is cool. This is great. I got a partner who now understands me, who's super empathetic. I really don't think he was an alcoholic. I think he drank once, and his grandma died of alcoholism, so he classified himself in because he wanted to be closer to me. I really like the needy ones. Jesus Christ, this is not what I expected to come out tonight. God has really different plans for me. But what ends up happening is, I went through the steps the first time, and they weren't that, there was this amazing connection that happened with my third step, right? And I was through the steps within my first 6 months of sobriety. So I was sponsoring by probably less than 6 months sober. I was entrusted with the lives of other women, which was a really scary thing, until I learned you can't really screw it up unless you're dishonest with them. But here's the thing, if I can't get honest with myself, how can I get really honest with another alcoholic? So obviously none of those sponsors stuck. I had to really learn how to be honest and vulnerable in this program, and that took about 6 years. My first year, I did the best that I could. I had a spiritual experience, and I had an amazing fellowship and great people around me, and I really loved my life. In my second year, I meet this awesome codependent dude who's right on my side at all times, and we decide it's great to get engaged, and my father gets sick, and my father was pretty, my childhood gets better the longer that I'm sober, so I'm not going to blame anything bad on my father, but he wasn't the most accountable dad, and he's Italian, so he's very hard with his hands and his head and fist, and he didn't have the best coping skills either. We still struggled with that same thing. And it fell into a place where he was diagnosed with rapid onset dementia. And I watched this man who, although extremely strict, anytime I got into trouble with the law, was right there to pick me up. He was right there to save my life. He was right there to help me. He wasn't a loving person, but he always liked being a hero, and he was my hero. My mother and dad did the best that they could. They did at the best that they could. And I'm adopted. I grew up in a household with 40 cousins. None of them even smoke cigarettes. Nothing. They don't even have a caffeine addiction. Nothing. And I'm there, and I'm doing everything. And they just didn't know what to do with me. What do you do with that? And my mother always says, still to this day, I hope you have a daughter just like you. And she doesn't mean it nicely. She means it as a penalty, reparations for my sins type thing. It's that Catholic guilt. Man, tangents. So my dad, rapid onset dementia, and I got to, in my second year of sobriety, go from a person who hated him and who was resentful at him, who got to help him and feed him and change his diaper, and watch this man go from a person who was my hero to a person that I had to care for, and I watched my father starve to death. And I didn't have to do it alone. My sponsor was right by my side. My fellowship was right by my side. That funeral was filled with so many amazing people. You know, it's profound what this fellowship can do. So that happens, I get engaged to the guy who's super awesome. But then I start I'm an alcoholic. So I start nitpicking things, like a little perfectionist there. And I didn't really like how immediately after dinner he set up his cereal box and cereal for the next morning. He had really bad OCD and it was starting to get on my nerves. And if I didn't cook the same thing on our Wednesday nights, he got real irritable. Or if the show that we were supposed to watch, he just didn't deal with his anxiety well, and I was getting bored. So I decided to call off the engagement. And not in a spiritual manner, right? I did the alcoholic thing, which was slowly distance myself, make him get angry, and then wait for the moment that I pushed him too far and blamed it all on him. And that's what I did with my relationships. My best way of running from them was, I also was really big on reputation management and caring what other people thought. So I wanted to walk away, with my health head high. It wasn't my fault. That's how I was as an alcoholic. It wasn't my fault. Everything in my life was incomprehensible demoralization. Everything in my life was chaos and catastrophe. I like to blame other things for my alcoholism, but the fact of the matter is, I liked the effects produced by alcohol, and I liked the effects produced by alcoholism and those alcoholic behaviors. I did. I liked being able to walk away with my reputation and not my tail between my legs. So that's how I ended that engagement. My sponsor said, you might want to look at that. No, thank you. She said, you might want to go through your steps again. But that's work. So I did the next best thing. I focused on myself and, promoted nightclubs for the next 9 months in my sobriety. I was a big nightclub promoter in New York City throughout a lot of my sobriety. And my sponsor, my whole first year sober, kept on saying, if you keep going to the barbershop, you're going to get a haircut. And I kept on saying, not if I like my hair the way that it is. And I fought her so hard on everything. I really was. I was so rebellious, and I wonder why my sponsees are the same. See, my mom's wish came true. At this point, I'm starting to get bored again. So I meet this guy, and he's adventurous, and he's the total opposite of me. And he's probably exactly like me, but I just didn't want to see it. And he was nuts, and he was adventurous, and he was crazy, and he was all over the place. And I was married to him within a 6-month period. That was it. I found the one. Right? And this is how it works when you find the one. That your sponsor says, there are so many red flags. Red flag, red flag. I took red flags like they were challenges. Challenge accepted. And this was my challenge. She was my new challenge. And so we decided to get married, not tell anyone, tell everyone after the fact because we knew they were going to give us hell about it. And then, he was a really good manipulator, better than me, which was shocking. And he took me, I took him on our honeymoon for 3 months. Saved up the money, paid for everything. He was in school at the time, that was it. And so as soon as he graduated school, we decided to go on this 3-month honeymoon to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Burma. And so that's what we did, and we got married again in Thailand with elephants and fireworks and fire dancers and all of this amazing, amazing stuff. Right? And we get home from Thailand, and he's like, I'm going to go visit my mom for a day. He calls me up the next day. He's like, I can't do this. I just, I'm not feeling right. I'm afraid your alcoholic behaviors are going to come back because you were nuts before we left for that honeymoon. And I really don't feel like walking back into it. And I was like, what the hell? That's okay, right? Okay. He's like my wingman over here. He's like giving me the wink and the nod, like this is acceptable. I need a sponsor like that can just like, that was good. So much easier than going through the steps. It's like good behavior, bad behavior. I crack myself up, that's all that matters. I get to laugh a lot at myself in sobriety. That's what I've learned. I can't take myself too damn seriously. Again, damn's acceptable. I gotta get used to this. So what ends up happening, I get back and, now I'm beaten. Now I'm at that point where like a drink or a drug would sound really good to me. Like, my husband just left me. I'm super codependent and needy. I should have gone through my steps 2 years ago, but now I'm at about 5 years sober, only been through my steps one time, had one spiritual experience, and pretty much have been resting on my laurels ever since. And that looks like an insane angry chick who throws stuff at walls and is just irritable and discontent with life. And nothing could satisfy me. I did the best that I could do, and I started going through my steps, and I started changing, and my husband immediately saw this, and he said, you know what, let's try this again. So he said, let's try this again, but like, let's do this somewhere else, like, let's move. So he moved me from New York City to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Well, little did I know, Rehoboth Beach is known for one of many reasons. Great vacation home, amazing beaches, also known as a gay beach, and wouldn't you know, my husband was. So, had no idea. Do you know what it's like going on someone's phone and opening up their Grindr account? Like, disgraceful. I know, right? I'm here. Obviously, I've been coming back, but there was no coming back from that one. I mean, once you cross that boundary, I just didn't know. Like, he was cheating on me with women I knew that I thought we could get past that, but I can't compete with a man. Like, I just don't got those parts. And, so, now I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What I had been doing, I helped start 6 meetings in that county that I moved to. I got sponsees, I ripped through that step work. And then my sponsor got pregnant. And she blamed pregnancy brain. She's like, I just can't do this. My head is like, gone. I think you need to find a sponsor closer to you. So I find the sponsor, and she was great for co-signing. Loved her. I was just like, so do I need to go through the steps again? She's like, you've been through them, right? I was like, yeah. She's like, we'll just go for coffee once a week. I was like, yeah. Where were you all my life? Needless to say, I didn't get better. So I'm with this one for a little bit, and, focusing on my sponsees, and I'm picking the real crazy ones. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm picking crazy sponsees, not I'm insane and so are they, and we're just feeding each other insanity. And that's what was happening. It was constant calamity and chaos throughout all of my sponsee relationships. And I sponsor men and women, and I always have these rules, right? I have one rule. I have like 20 rules. It's always like, I have one rule, don't screw your sponsee sister. And then they screw their sponsee sister. I'm like, I have one rule, call me before you screw your sponsee sister. Let's talk about this first. Where's your head at? And mainly it was the women preying on the men, actually. Go figure. That's not reverse sexual harassment. That's just normal sexual harassment, which happens both ways in AA. I had to learn that. I can't judge anything. Everyone's got their own experience, and even that sometimes works out. I had to learn things so much the hard way, right? So all of this happens. I got a sponsor co-signing my stuff, and she tells me, I get really busy in the summertime, so I'm probably not going to be able to meet with you. Call me in September. Cool. I got off from the summer. This is great. And at the end of the summer, she says, life's gotten really busy, I just don't think. You were meeting for coffee for 30 minutes once a week. You're that busy? Are you kidding me? So I get this other sponsor. And he's awesome, and I love him, and I knew him from New York, and he's a paisano, and like, you know, my real Italian heritage, and blah, blah, blah. And I grew up with his son, and this is great. And he gets me, like, through some of the steps, and then he's just like, I really don't feel, you're like my daughter, I really can't hear your sex inventory. This is just really uncomfortable. And I was like, so what are you suggesting? He's like, I think it's best you get another sponsor. And I was like, come on, man. Like, I'm really trying to get through this step work and have another spiritual experience again. Like, now you guys are halting everything. I was not seeing, I'm never seeing the picture. First off, I fight everything like a 4-year-old, let's be real. And then it works out great, and I'm like thinking it's my idea when it wasn't. And so what ends up happening is now I've already met someone, right? Not how I expected to, but I met someone in the rooms at an event, and it happened real weird. I was giving him dating advice, and it always happens weird ways. I was giving him dating advice, and somehow we ended up on the phone for 8 hours. It was my first all-nighter. I never even did that when I was out there. And I walked into work at 5 a.m. I work at 5 a.m. and in a treatment center. And I call him up, and I'm still on the phone with him. He goes, hey, you know, we've been talking for about 8 or 9 hours. Do you want to go on a date on Friday? And I was like, you know, I'm only recently divorced. I don't know if this is a good idea. And he was like, well, how about we go on the date on Friday? It's a sober dance. Let's just go, have some fun. He's like, and if it goes well, then that's it. That's it? Yeah, you're in a relationship. What? He's like, it's Delaware. There's a very low population of intelligent female individuals. I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if I'm going to get another chance with someone who can speak clearly and has all their teeth. We went on the date. We've been together for 3 years. So like I'm trying to get through all of this stuff so I can have these new spiritual experiences. And my friend invites me to speak at SWACCA in Arizona. And so I fly out to Arizona, and I meet this awesome woman, and she gets up on stage on the podium. She's one of the main speakers, and I had no idea she was a main speaker. We were chilling in his pool the day before, and she was there with her kids, and she was just really honest and really authentic, and she wasn't afraid to put all of her business out there. Every defect that she had, how things were going poorly in her marriage, and if it wasn't for this one thing, her husband and her wouldn't be together, and all of this stuff, and all of this, and I was there, and I was just like, say those things. And when this male sponsor that I had said, I think it's best you get a female sponsor, like another sponsor, he didn't suggest female because he knew better. Because if you tell me what to do, I'm going to do the total opposite. And I still have that defined characteristic about me. And so I was talking to my best friend, and you know, we're 10-stepping about something, and he goes to me, he's like, would you like to talk to Nikki? And I was like, I'd love to talk to her. And he was like, well, why don't you just ask her to sponsor you? And I did. And I'm going to tell you something about going through the steps honestly and incorporating into the steps emotional sobriety and the difference that that has made in my life. I was nuts sober. Because I still had all of those behaviors, still had all of those isms. I still was restless, irritable, and discontented with everything. And I said I had a God in my life, but me and God's relationship, my higher power, HP, the real OG, whatever you want to call it, we had this odd relationship where it was like, I told God what I wanted, and I was like, here's my prayers. Not supposed to pray for me, I know that now. This is what I would like to happen. Would be really cool if your will would align with mine. And if we can't make that happen, I can do your will, but I'm not going to do it as a woman of respect and dignity. I'm going to do it kicking and screaming and crying and having meltdowns and just not looking pretty in the process. So that's emotional sobriety. I went through this emotional sobriety workshop, right? And then I got this awesome sponsor. And I finally, at 7 years sober, started getting really honest and vulnerable with another person. And finally, after an 11-year eating disorder came out about it, finally after stealing and robbing stores, my ex-husband was really big in behavioral addictions. He was also a drug dealer. Did I mention this? I had terrible decision-making skills in sobriety. And I didn't know he was a drug dealer till 2 years into the relationship. Just so that we're clear, I was in that big of a denial. Like, I can delude myself into believing anything as an alcoholic. That's my problem. I have built-in forgetters, and I'm really good at believing my own BS. And I had to look at the fact that the only way that me and my husband bonded was when he invited me out with him to rob stores. And I would have done anything for his attention and his love. And I had to look at the fact that after the marriage, at 5.5 years, 6 years sober, I still stole in order to spite him and myself and give my mom nice Christmas gifts because I felt like she deserved it. That was my amends to her. You know, like that's the sick stuff I can convince myself of when I'm not working with a spiritual solution and when I'm not in the literature. You know, and as much as I can read that literature and know it by heart, because I can quote line by line as good as the next person. And I always could. From day one of walking into this program, I knew that literature. I just had a really big problem with applying it. You know, and that's where the spirituality comes in. It's in the application. And I didn't get that. So I finally got honest with my sponsor, and I went through an honest first step. And really admitting that I'm powerless over alcohol. And you know what's really cool? This time I did a fifth step. I didn't fall asleep through my hour of meditation, which is what I had done in the past. It was always like, meditate for an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I'd fall asleep. It's like my brain could not handle reviewing the first 5 principles. Take this book down off the shelf, review the first 5 principles, meditate on it. This time that I did that, I was stuck on one for probably 30 minutes. Powerless over alcohol. Really? Do I still think almost 9 years later, am I really powerless? Could I have one drink? Maybe. Could I do it safely? I don't know. I literally was sitting there in my head wondering these things. Until it was like, really look at your life and what it did, who it destroyed, how it destroyed you. Like, I am, in my strongest moments, powerless over alcohol, and my life is unmanageable unless I have a power greater than myself. The only reason I have the ability to choose today is because I have a power greater than myself working in my life daily, that I choose to acknowledge and honor and respect daily. I don't know if they talk about it in here, but I know that they didn't talk about it a lot when I first moved to Delaware, and it's something that I really missed hearing about, that I heard about a lot in early sobriety, which is that belly barometer. You know, that God consciousness within. And like, for so long, I would get a feeling, right? And I still have these moments where I can't differentiate between excitement and anxiety. They have the same physiological symptoms. So I have a really hard time differentiating. So for a long time, I was out there doing really bad stuff and getting that feeling and doing it anyway. To the point where I almost convinced myself that if I get that feeling, I should go through with it. And I had to learn that my belly barometer, when that stuff happened and I wasn't feeling comfortable and I was feeling icky and I was feeling that anxiety, it meant walk away. It didn't mean challenge accepted. It didn't mean let's push the envelope. It meant this is an indication that this is not the will of your higher power. Please back down. And I learned how to do that, right? I learned how to accept that I'm powerless, and that because I'm powerless, that does not mean weakness. You know, we are bound through our quote-unquote weakness, and this disease has made one mistake, and that's that it's the same in all of us. And because of that, we can have a common solution. And that common solution is these steps and working these principles. Having that spiritual experience and that spiritual awakening, this time, gonna tell you what it looked like for me yesterday. Yesterday, I don't know why I do these things to myself. People ask me in advance, do you want to speak at this 3 months from now? And I say yes, and I put it in my calendar, and then it goes off a day before, and I go, what the hell was I thinking? Are you kidding me? And I did that. I had a speaking commitment yesterday, like 45 minutes away from me, not that bad. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Scheduling all of this stuff. And it's like, that's not me, that's God protecting my sobriety. That's God protecting me, allowing me to be of service. I just stepped down as the DCM for my district. I'm now the all DCM. You know, I'm very heavily involved in all aspects of the service structure. I have the opportunity to speak in workshops on the concepts, which most people don't even know exists. To speak about the charter, they're like, what's that? I'm like, ever see that upside down triangle? Maybe we should, you know. I have the ability to now take my sponsees through the steps, traditions, and concepts. I've always been in service, and I think that's the only way I stayed sober. I wasn't sane. I didn't get sanity because I didn't give up the defects. I didn't go through those steps fully. But I didn't pick up a drink because every single day I did the best that I freaking could. And I still do, and I'm still flawed. And yesterday, I'm driving to this meeting and it's sunset, and for some reason I was like in a real emo mood. So I put on like this old school band called The Starting Line and started listening to this song, The Best of Me. And for some reason, every good like breakup, get back together song reminds me of my relationship with my higher power. And the lyrics are, tell me what you thought about when you were gone and so alone, the worst is over, you can have the best of me. We got older, but we're still young. We never grew out of this feeling that we won't give up. You know, and then it said, jumping to conclusions made me fall away from you. You know, memories, we reflect on miscommunications and misunderstandings. I'm so glad that this truth has brought back together me and you. And for me, like, I'm bawling my eyes out in the car driving to this meeting, so thankful to my higher power for being there for me. That all it took was willingness to tell the truth. To really, really practice the principle of step 1, honesty. You know, to admit that I'm powerless but not weak. To learn how to be honest. You know, going through this process, there's no right or wrong way, right? But the more time I have, the more able I am to, you know, transcend my own baloney and see more honestly the person that I'm being on a daily basis, and 10th step regularly with other people. And I don't know, the serenity that I have today in my life is not at all what I ever expected it to be, right? I live at a beach, I'm a city girl. They call my county slower lower. You know, I'm from New York City, like, we don't do slow. Now I do slow. Now I'm okay. People complain about traffic, I'm like, you do not know traffic. My life doesn't look like, at 30 I thought I would be married and with kids, and you know, in my career, and life would look very different than it does now. And today what life looks like is I work a full-time job, a really great job, and I have amazing bosses and coworkers, and I love my job, even though it requires me to wake up at 4 a.m. And I'm in grad school, full-time. And I'm also in another school that the state is paying for me to go so I can get another degree through them because they have so much faith in me. And my boyfriend does not live anywhere near me. He lives in Pittsburgh and he's going to law school. And he's 7 hours away. That's not kids and a family. That's not what my life I thought it would be. You know, he does acting, I do modeling and podcasting. He does this, I do totally not what I would have expected of my life. But you know, I was talking to him on the way here, and you know, we're very dry humor, sarcastic individuals, and like very dark and in some ways. And he was like, you know, why don't you just talk about what you get to do today, which is dying on the upswing. And I was like, you know what, that is great. Like, I get to die on the upswing today. And we're talking about it, like, back then, I would have died. No one wants to read that obituary. Drug addict, alcoholic, 19 years old, 3 community colleges, failed student, shitty daughter. Ooh, stand. I was so close. I got 5 minutes. Bad daughter. You know, like, that's a terrible obit. And he was like, yeah, what would mine have read? Like, failed actor, failed out of law school, died of an overdose. And I'm just like, at least now we get to die on the upswing. Super helpful individual, always tried to stay positive, did the best she could, great daughter, accountable person, you know, has so many opportunities. Like, if I died now, people would miss me. If I died then, I'm pretty sure my mom would have been really happy to count that weight off her shoulders and not having to worry about me every day if I was gonna come home alive or dead. You know, I have a life today that I'm not willing to give up. You know, they told me when I came in here, sit in that chair and hold on to it for dear life, do not give it up. And I'm willing to fight for that chair today and this seat in Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, I did not do this program right, but I've done it to the best of my ability, and my life is beyond my wildest dreams today. I have stopped being sometimes I'm not a 4-year-old child fighting God's will. I have my moments, like when my boyfriend went to leave for law school, I was in a pity party for like a solid of 2 weeks. I was miserable. And then I'm like, oh my God, the independence is great. I don't have to cook for anyone else. Like, this is awesome. Like, I really found a way to be happy with who I am as a person and not depend on another human being. That's never a place I thought I'd be at. I never thought I'd have sponsees who called me and respected what I had to say, and would actually call me to 10th step because I don't give them answers. I always thought I had to have the answers to everything. I thought I had to be the sponsor that told you what to do. I thought I needed a sponsor who told me what to do. I just needed a sponsor who was gonna sit there and say, you know, how do you feel about that? Like, do you think that that's the right choice? Like, let's look at this in a 10th step. Where are you resentful? What's the fear? Where's the dishonesty? Where are you lying to yourself? And where are you being selfish today? You know, and when I do that, you know, my 11th step at the end of the day is real easy when I do my nightly review and I answer those questions. And I have that relationship with my higher power. I'm able to say, you know what? I did the best that I could, thank you. And I go to sleep with my head on that pillow, happy with who I am. I look at myself in the mirror with pride. And the best thing about this program is I'm able to give away which is so freely given to me. And I don't even do that right. I mean, I had 5 minutes left and I cursed. I mean, and that's my disease. I'll always sabotage it right at the best part or right at the end. You know, it's just, and that's just the reminder to me, like, I have to stay humble. I have to stay honest. I have to stay vigilant because my disease is always wishing and trying to pop up in different ways. I am super proud of myself because I feel like I have done everything I can do to make it to this hour mark. I am from New York. We don't do hour speaker meetings. I was never introduced to this before. This is very difficult. But I think I covered all the steps. I didn't do it in the format people typically do, but the principles are there. And if you can apply the principles and keep this program simple and not overcomplicate it, I think that that's where it's at for me today. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, it's in keeping it simple and practicing the principles in all of my affairs that it really makes the difference. So I really thank you guys tonight for allowing me to be here and to serve you and to serve my higher power. So thanks for letting me share.
All right, thank you, Jenna, for coming here and sharing that powerful message of hope that I did tonight. Thank you. A couple of quick announcements and we'll get out of here. There's always a meeting after the meeting, so if you're new or if you're struggling or if you just want to hang out and get a little bit more involved, we'll be hanging out for a little while here. We could always use help cleaning up. We got to put the chairs away. Is it a normal setup for the chairs? We'll do 5 across, 7 rows back on the chairs. We'll probably head to Perkins after the meeting if you could join us. It's half-price appetizers. We're working on trying to get Ron a cut of the bills, so your patronage would be greatly appreciated. It's customary for us to form a line and thank our speakers. They come on their own time and expense to share a message with us, and if you care to join us, we have a nice way of closing.